Love to see that you thought it was great, Hannah. Dave's a little wired now.
I normally don't drink coffee. Coffee is bad for you. Caffeine is bad for you.
I'm sure as students, a lot of you guys live off of caffeine. All right, great. Well, while we wait for everybody else to join, really quickly, we'll just go through kind of the structure of In the Know with the CEO. So this time around, it looks like we aren't able to see everybody's beautiful faces, but the next time we'll work it out to make sure that we can see everybody again. So you can ignore the turn on your cameras, but be ready to raise your hands because we really encourage everybody to participate. We want to prioritize live questions. And if we have time at the end, we will definitely go into all of the incredible questions that you guys had submitted. So at VEG, everything here has a mission, and our mission today is VEG's CEO answering students' questions live. So really quickly in the chat, does anybody want to drop, does anybody know our second spike here at VEG? And while I wait to see if anybody responds to that, oh, Taylor raised their hand. Taylor, if you just want to throw it in the chat quickly. Perfect. Yes, Jessica. So call and speak with a doctor right away. And one thing that we love to do here at VQ and when we're on campus is incorporate our spikes that we are able to embody in our hospitals and bring it to VQ, bring it to campus when we're on campus. And so today you guys are going to be speaking to a doctor right away. That doctor happens to also be our CEO. And again, I just want to highlight that this is really the only opportunity, and to my knowledge, the only company that has really opened up a platform to allow students to ask questions directly to our CEO. And as openness is one of our core values, we really encourage you to ask any and all questions here tonight. So we will start off. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open the floor. So any brave soul want to ask their question first? David, do you have anything else to add there?
Nope, I'm excited. I love this. My favorite thing is speaking with students. The future is all yours.
All right.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, so you can actually turn your camera on if we do call on you, but no pressure if you don't want to, but feel free to do so. Vada, if you want to go ahead.
Oh, okay, great. I wasn't sure if it was actually working or not.
It's working. I can hear you great.
Dr. Bessler, I think I got to chat with a couple people recently about why VEG works. And I'm just thinking, like, when you were starting out doing this, how did you get through people probably telling you constantly that it would never work?
That is a phenomenal question, because like right now people tell us, even now people say like, oh, it'll never work. And I'm like, we see 500,000 cases a year and it works just fine. But you're right, in the beginning, I remember one specifically, we had 2 hospitals at the time. We were only nights, weekends, and holidays, so we weren't seeing that many cases. And I went to go talk to a bunch of general practitioners, and they said, yeah, good luck doing that. Like, people are gonna faint in the back, and you know, your liability insurance is gonna be a problem, or what are you gonna do when this happens? What are you gonna do when that happens? And I think the way I dealt with it then was I said, well, we do it a bunch and it seems to be working so far. We don't have that much experience, but I'll say I'm a risk taker. And if I really believe that something is the right way to go, then I'm going to do that and see if it works. And if it doesn't seem to work and I discover those problems, like, fine, we'll deal with that then. But the real way that we handled this, like the way that we approached it is, and I see that Anna Foster just got on, Anna actually said it best. She described our process best, which was the way that Veg discovered all the things that we discovered is we put one foot in front of the other in the right direction. We knew the direction that we were heading in was right. And we just took one step at a time in the right direction, discovering, innovating one aspect of the Veg experience after the other. And every time it worked, we went on. And if things didn't work, we changed the way we did things, maybe pivoted a little bit, or just rewound and didn't do them. It's a really great question. We had definitely a tough time in the beginning. There were a lot of naysayers who said that it wouldn't work, but we were confident that if we took that approach, that it would work.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I have to think now about like some examples of things that didn't work.
Yeah.
I'll think about those.
All right. Joe, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you great.
Hi, Dr. Bessler. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you? It's nice. Well, I sort of see you. Nice to see your name, but we just met at Penn. Great to see you in the chat.
Yeah, so good to see you again as well. So one of the other questions I had from a more veterinary perspective is, being an emergency hospital, you don't see these patients routinely, or I guess you shouldn't see them, on a regular basis. So how do you kind of, I don't want to say market, but kind of get clients and pet owners to be able to know about, Veg and what kind of great things you're able to do there rather than other veterinary hospitals?
Yeah, good question. And I know, Joe, I know that you have an interest in the business side of things. So people find us, first of all, we ask our customers lots of questions. One of my favorite, when I go to visit a hospital, I walk over to all the customers that are there and I ask them if it's their first time here, how they found us. An interesting thing that we found when I had one hospital, I asked people how and it had been around, I bought that hospital. So it had been around for like 25 years beforehand. And I would ask people how they found us. And I was looking for answers like Google, or I found your website, or a friend told me about you, or even I drive by all the time. The most common answer I got is I've been here before, which isn't really an answer to the question of how did you find us. And I was always like upset about that answer, but it taught me a really amazing piece of information. If you ask people how they found us and they say, I've been here before, what that tells you about people's behavior is when they have an emergency, they go where they know. If there's a place that they know about already because they've been there before, or they knew about it already, that's where they're going to go. They're not going to go to Google. They probably will call their vet. They may not call their best friend. They're just going to go to a place that they know. So that was a big insight for me. And the question then was like, how can we get people to know about us before they have an emergency? And the second most common answer we got was, I drive by here every day. Well, that's one way to get people to know about us. If we have places that we say that our real estate is Main on Main. So in Lincoln Park in Chicago, our hospital is across the street from the Apple Store. In Hoboken, New Jersey, it's right across the street from Trader Joe's. We have like amazing real estate so that when people drive by just in the course of their regular lives, they see a big sign that says Veterinary Emergency Group. It's no secret what we do. It's really obvious, Veterinary Emergency Group. And what they say to themselves is, oh, good to know that that's there. If I ever have an emergency with my pet, that's where I'll go. So now they know of a place, the exact address, and they know where it is because they pass by every day. So they know about us before an emergency arises. The next thing that we do, and this is probably the most important, is we give our customers an amazing experience, one that they're going to go and tell their friends about afterwards. And so it's not just an experience that they survive, like, oh, I went to that ER and like it was the worst experience of my life and I hope I don't have to ever go again. Instead, they leave our hospitals thinking, I had an emergency. I went to this incredibly helpful place. I hope I never have to go again, but I know that if I ever have an emergency, I'm really grateful that that place is there. And so they'll tell their friends about it. Yet another way for people to find out about us before they have an emergency. And then we do all the regular things, which is we compete for certain search terms on paid search on Google. We get reviews. We have the best reviews on Google. If you look, I think our average is 4.6 or 4.7. with many, many, many reviews. Just and that's just a testimony to the great experience that people have. We have out of home, what's called out of home marketing. We have billboards. We now have advertisements you may be watching. This would be fun. Put something in the chat if you've been watching like YouTube TV or something online and have seen a veg ad. Has that happened to anybody here? Just curious, you can like type in the chat if you have. I know my friends text me all the time. They're like, we were watching whatever. I'm like, yes, there you go. So that as well, I think it's crazy that we have veg ads that people see, but that's where we've come to. And so all those are ways that we let people know about veg before they have an emergency. Does that answer your question, Joe?
Yes, thank you. And if I could follow up a question as well, I'm assuming you also speak with local hospitals, veterinary hospitals and veterinarians as well.
Yes, you're hired, Joe. Referring vet marketing. So many people, when they have an emergency, they call their veterinarian. And then during the day, we're open 24/7 now. And so cases will go into their general practitioner, and their general practitioner will say, you know what, I have a bunch of appointments. This is an emergency. I'm going to send you over to veg. And so our medical directors, primarily, they establish deep relationships with the referring veterinarians and general practices in the area around their hospitals, so that those veterinarians know about veg before there's an emergency, so that when their clients call them and they have an emergency, they say, you know, go to veg. So we do spend, our medical directors spend a lot of time, you can call it marketing, or really just developing relationships with the general practitioners in the area. We also communicate well. Our 7 spike is we collaborate with your vet. And anytime we see a case, whether a veterinarian sent that over or they just happen to come in, but we know who their vet is, we collaborate with their vet, keep them posted about the case, call them to let them know as the case is going on. Great point, Joe. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Better at my job than I am.
Brianna.
This is fun. I like that they stay on the screen. And so by the end, we're going to have the screen full of people. Okay.
Hi, Dr. Bessler. I'm Brianna. I have a question. Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I'm excited that you're from Cornell. I went to Cornell undergrad.
Oh yeah, I'm actually at LSU right now, but I know I did my undergraduate at Cornell, and so I have that picture still up there. I wasn't actually sure if it was still there. So my question is, when you're expanding veg, how do you decide on new locations if it's not proprietary information? But I'm sure there's a lot of places that are in need of emergency services, but how do you pick your locations one over the other?
Yeah, good question. So there are a lot of places. The way I say it is, if there are places where people have pets and they love their pets, and those pets get into shenanigans, then they will want an elevated emergency experience, and veg should be there. We can only open a certain number of veggies every year, so we have to prioritize. Right now, there are a lot of large areas that we think are underserved. Underserved doesn't mean they just don't have access to emergency. They don't have access to the veg emergency experience. So the first thing we do is we look at what are called the largest MSAs, or metropolitan statistical areas. These are large cities and the areas around those cities. So like the New York metro area, the Chicago metro area. And we look at those places and we say, they don't have a veg, let's put a veg there. The suburbs around those areas, there's no veg there. We really don't pay much attention to what emergency services are already there. We don't really care, because we provide what we think is a different experience. People are looking at 2 doors. One is another ER provider and one is veg. We're confident that they will choose veg every time. And so we can put our hospitals right next door, right down the street from an existing emergency hospital, and people will choose to come to us. So right now what we're doing is plunking down veggies in major cities and the areas around those cities. At the same time, we're also figuring out how to open up in smaller markets. And because we're eventually going to be in every city. Our end goal is to be everywhere a van might stop on tour. We will have a veg for sure, but also anywhere where there are people who love their pets and their pets have emergencies, we will be there as well. So that's kind of our priority. Big cities, suburbs around cities, and then smaller markets, meaning call them big little towns, and then little big towns. And then really towns that you and I have never even heard of in the United States. There's lots of them.
Well, thank you. If I can do a second question, I wanted to ask, besides speaking with students, what's your favorite part about your role in the veg environment?
So, I mean, the easy answer, I have to give you another one afterwards because it might seem cheap, is meeting our new veggies, our nerds. These are people who are, what I love about meeting students is that you have your whole futures ahead of you. And I can make a huge impact, I think, by inspiring you while you're still students. I can affect the rest of your emergency veterinary career. When I meet our new ER doctors, these are people who come to us straight out of school or people who have been practicing in other areas of veterinary medicine who decided that they want to switch their careers to emergency. Meeting with them is also really fun for me because I get to impact the rest of their emergency career. So that's my second most. If that's not like a great answer, you're probably looking for things like, part of my everyday job. I love going to visit our veggies. These are people who have committed themselves to emergency and to veg emergency. And I love visiting their hospitals. I walk in and my goal is to give everybody a hug, ask them if they're loving their veg life, and then listening to their complaints, their requests, figuring out ways that I can serve them to make their veg lives better. So just visiting hospitals is how I spend the majority of my time, is visiting veg hospitals. And that's my favorite part. So I would say talking to students, talking to new ER doctors or new veggies, and then going to visit them in their hospitals. Those are my favorite things.
Thank you. I loved all your answers.
You're welcome.
Adam?
Hey, Dr. Bessler, how are you?
I'm great.
So I had a quick question about, I guess my first one is a bit more of a personal one. I was curious so I'm doing my very first veg externship in June at Williamsburg in New York City. And I'm curious, what are your favorite places to eat or your must eats if you're hitting New York City?
That is a tough one. So I have to watch what I eat all the time because I'm constantly on the road. And if you don't eat deliberately, you end up eating really unhealthy food. And so I stick to protein, and I like Chick-fil-A just because they have grilled nuggets there that fit my diet really well. They're 0 points on Weight Watchers. I don't eat the rest of the stuff at Chick-fil-A. I really just eat their grilled nuggets. And so that's like anywhere. You're asking about New York in particular. Somebody said pizza. You absolutely have to have a good slice of New York pizza. I will say if you go to, I think if you search for One Bite, I think it is, or First Bite Pizza, it's the guy from Barstool Sports. He rates like all of the pizza places. You'll find some there are a lot of great pizza places in New York. There's one, if you're going to be, you said you're going to be in Williamsburg, amazing veg, by the way. I believe, and somebody Google this in the background, I think the place is DeFara's. If you look up DeFara's Pizza, I think it's with a D, in Brooklyn. I think that is actually rated the #1 pizza place, DeFara. There you are. It is, you're going to wait online, but that is amazing New York pizza. And it's in Brooklyn, near where you're going to be.
Awesome.
One last thing for you, I will say, if you're interested in a really, really expensive meal, but once in a lifetime experience, save up money, find a friend, and go to 11 Madison Park, which is an amazing, amazing dining experience. It's all plant-based, so it's vegan, but the experience there really is very similar to what we aim for at Veg. It's really just like an amazing experience. It's not just about the food, it's about the way they treat you and the experience they give you when you're there. So 2 ends of the spectrum, some cheap New York pizza and some very, very expensive fine dining in New York.
Hey, that's pretty awesome. If that's not New York City right there. Another question for you. So, one thing that kept me from emergency medicine for a little while, or the idea of emergency medicine, but I kept coming back because once I started working in it, I was like, wow, I think I really want to do this. How does Veg address or work with some of the challenges that are associated with ER intrinsically, like such as shift work and the long hours?
Yeah, great question, Adam. Adam, what school are you at?
AVC.
Got it. So the way that we say it is, I think emergency has always been hard. Our job at Veg, since all we do is emergency, our job is to figure out what are the things that are not inherent in emergency that we can make easier. emergency is hard enough as it is. You shouldn't have to deal with all the other crap that just makes it harder for no good reason. Like there's no reason why finding food should be really, really difficult. So, there's nothing inherent to emergency about like unhealthy, late night food. So, and I know this isn't the exact answer to your question, but so we tackle that by, for example, we have all of our veggies, we have fridges there. There's a whiteboard on the fridge and you just write down the food that you want and we just order that to the fridge. It's there. So at 2 o'clock in the morning when everything is closed, you should have like the makings of a healthy meal that you can just go in there and get some food. The shift work is hard, meaning emergencies happen 24/7. They happen at night, they happen on weekends. And so if we want to be there to serve our customers who are having emergencies, we need to be there as well. That is something that is inherent to emergency work, is going to be working at all hours of the day and night. The way that we solve that is, it doesn't mean that you have to work a million shifts. It doesn't mean that you have to work a million hours. So we have some of our hospitals are experimenting with 10-hour shifts. Most places have 2 12-hour shifts or maybe some 14-hour shifts. We're experimenting with having just 10-hour shifts, 3 10-hour shifts a week. So while it's important, I think it's inherent in the emergency work that you have to be available at 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't only have to be available at 2 o'clock in the morning. So you can work a 2 o'clock in the morning shift, an overnight shift, but you should have some good daytime shifts mixed in there as well. Lining those shifts up one after the other, that is our job, to schedule you in a way that is sustainable and healthy for you. So, not working, a shift and then a day off and then another shift, like that's crazy. You want to work your 3 shifts in a row. You probably want to work your shifts like day, then night, rather than night, then day. And so we take care of all that. Other things, here's a really huge one, which most people don't realize. One thing that's hard about emergency is people are super, super worried. They're at their most worried because things happen suddenly. They love their pets. They don't know you. They know they're going to have to spend a lot of money. And, so you're set up right away to encounter really, really worried, nervous people. What do we do to combat that? That's our openness. We allow people to see everything that's going on. So that solves a distrust issue. They see the value that they're paying for. They see the nurses who are experts at managing all the tubes and stuff that are hooked up and wires that are hooked up to their patients, to their pets. Taking x-rays, we allow them to see all that so they understand the value that they're paying for. They know why they're waiting because they see that doctor and nurse that they're waiting to see. They know that they can see exactly what they're busy doing. They're busy doing important stuff, not just playing on their computers. So through opening it up, we counter that inherent thing of an emergency, which is like scared people, serious illnesses, that kind of thing. One more thing I'm going to add in, which is we don't think you should get to pick and choose which patients you want to treat. People have pets. Our mission is helping people and pets when they need it most. A lot of people have exotic pets, big pets, small pets, scaly pets, feathered pets, and they come in too. And that's part of doing emergency, saying, I'm not comfortable seeing this, looking at people's faces like, what do you mean? I thought you were a doctor. So we prepare you to see those exotic patients by giving you the training and the resources that you need to see them. So we tackle those things that are hard about emergency by just giving you the training and setting you up to succeed. Does that answer your question, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely add for anybody listening, we had the privilege at the Atlantic Vet College up here in Canada to have Morgan Callahan and Bianca Zafrano and Monica Huang with us, who joined us last fall for our one of our conferences. And Bianca in particular, and as well as Morgan, gave fantastic talks, and Bianca in particular on exotic medicine. And I just think that concept of openness and taking whatever comes, comes to the door and really bringing clients into the experience so they understand what they're getting, I think is just phenomenal. Yeah, fantastic answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. You are very well spoken. You should take advantage of that.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Adam. Caitlin.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Can hear you great, Caitlin. Thank you.
I was just curious, what have you personally and the company been doing to keep your small company atmosphere in all of these new hospitals that you're setting up as you're rapidly expanding across the nation?
That's another good question. I'm going to stop saying great question for every question because all of your questions are great. So they're all great. But unless I tell you, if I tell you your question is not a good question, then you'll know. So there are a lot of ways that we tackle that. So number one is we have this position called market owner. It's new. I don't really know of any other company that has it. A market owner's job is really, imagine a world where let's take let's say you're in Brooklyn or New York City. So we have a market owner for our New York City hospitals. That means Upper East Side of Manhattan, Chelsea in Manhattan, Williamsburg in Brooklyn, and Ralph Avenue in Brooklyn. So 4 hospitals. Imagine a company that has 4 emergency hospitals, 4 VEGs, and that's the entire company. Now imagine a person that owns that company. They're the owner of a 4 VEG company. That's it. How do you imagine them spending their time? They're visiting those hospitals all the time. They are helping the local leaders of those hospitals be great leaders. They're helping them manage the business. If people have requests, so let's say there's some way that the veggies in those VEGs want to improve their hospital, they go to their local leaders. Their local leaders can reach out to their market owner. That market owner only has 4 hospitals to worry about, and so they can get them those resources really easily. The goal of a market owner is exactly that. What you asked about, it makes all of the veggies in those VEGs feel like they're in a small company, because all of their needs and wants are all tended to by one owner that owns just a very small group of hospitals. So that's one really, really important way that we make it feel like it's a small hospital, a small company. Within your VEG, each of our hospitals is small. Like if you look at a typical specialty hospital, you have a million specialties and specialists and all the nurses that are in there and all the equipment and a giant space. You're in a typical specialty hospital has like 150 employees. That's a really big company. And so it's very, very difficult to have a small feel. When you walk into any one of our VEGs, they're like, 4,000 square feet. They have like, I don't know, 60 employees, 70 employees, something like that. It is just inherently a smaller company. Everybody knows everybody. They're all doing the same job. All we do is emergency. You don't have oncology and ophthalmology and dermatology. They all have different work cadences and different goals in life. Everybody's kind of doing the same things. This real kind of family feel. And then we design our hospitals to feel like a family. We have what we call our family room. It's literally called our family room, so that you feel like a family. It's got a fridge in there. It's got places to sit around. People hang fun stuff on the walls. Just a family-like atmosphere. We don't have to do much to make it feel like a small family company, because each VEG is a small family company.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Jackie, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Bessler. I'm Jackie. I'm
Jackie.
from Tufts University and from VEG Shrewsbury.
I love that you're for both.
Our
Great.
ambassador.
Nice. Nice to meet you, Jackie.
Nice to meet you too. I've met you from our opening, actually.
I actually remember that. I didn't know whether that was you.
But I have sort of a question that comes from more of the working at VEG side. So we always hear rumors about, VEG radiology becoming a thing. I just wanted to know if you guys have worked on that a little bit more, or what your plan is with that so far.
Yeah, so VEG radiology is definitely a thing. We have a chief radiology, the chief of veterinary radiology, that's Jaime Recchi, who's a radiologist. We have, comes in a lot of forms. So I would say overall, the mission of VEG radiologists is providing a radiology function for just VEG. What we ran into is there are a bunch of teleradiology companies out there, and they all want to have exclusivity with VEG, meaning VEG only uses them. And so we signed an exclusivity deal with them, and then very quickly they're like, no more, we can't handle anymore, because we just had too many cases for them. So there was no one teleradiology company that could handle the demand from VEG. And so we used a bunch. Then we realized that we couldn't rely on them to continue to meet that demand. We also found that VEG is different. Veggies are different. Our customers are different. Our cases are different. And so we actually we have different needs out of VEG teleradiology that a lot of companies couldn't meet. And so we realized we had to actually have our own veg radiologists there to serve our veggies. And so what we have now, Veg already employs 2 radiologists, and we also have at least 1 radiology resident that Veg sponsors, who will eventually work for Veg, and we're hiring more. And all they do is read Veg cases. They live in a Veg hospital and they do ultrasounds for us. We also have sonographers. So these are trained veterinary sonographers. All of them, to my knowledge, are nurses, and they do ultrasounds in Veges. I feel like you don't have one at Shrewsbury. You
No,
don't
I
have a
don't think so.
sonographer yet. No, but we are hiring for more. And so that will continue to build out. And so eventually more and more radiology cases will be read by radiologists who work for Veg. More ultrasounds will be done by sonographers who work for Veg. On top of that, and this is a huge part of their mission, is they are upskilling or just increasing the radiology skill level of all of our doctors and nurses. So for example, they have this great program, it's called Pause Off Radiology, and they're just inventing new ways and training all of our veggies to take x-rays more safely without having to restrain, without having to hold patients for x-rays. They're also on chats and creating learning management system, meaning online courses and live in-person courses to teach our nurses to take better x-rays and teach our doctors to better read x-rays and have the confidence, so they don't actually need to send in every x-ray study for a radiology consult. They can read them themselves and feel confident and not need to send any out. So those are all the ways that our Veg radiology program is just improving the radiology function at Veg.
Awesome. I actually have a follow-up question because I didn't know about the sonographers.
Yeah.
So since we have 4 locations in Massachusetts, do you think you're going to try and make the sonographers more central to all 4, or try to allocate them to each one?
So that's probably in flux. So in the beginning, so the way that we've done it in the past, they usually started at one busy hospital and then they kind of went out on an as needed basis out to the other hospitals that may be less busy. Shrewsbury is super busy and Newton is super busy, and Boston and Cambridge are going to be very busy. We probably will end up with, we'll probably have a sonographer at one who will serve the others. Then they will eventually have a sonographer, I believe, at each hospital. I think that there's a good chance that every busy hospital will have a sonographer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jackie. Keep doing the great work you're doing.
Anna, go ahead.
Hello, Dr. Bessler. I'm Anna.
Hey,
I'm
Anna.
from Cornell University. I had my first externship with Veg at the Boston location in June. And so my question for you was, what tips do you have for like clinical year students going into externships on like how to stand out and how to kind of make an impact in those 2 short weeks in order to get a good letter of recommendation at the end?
Great. I'm going to actually pass you off to Greta Steve, who's better able to answer that question.
Greta, I'm going to unmute you now.
Hello, everyone. If I understood the question correctly, you're asking how to get the most out of the 2 weeks. I would honestly say to just go into it with an open mind and really advocate for yourself. Our emergency hospitals are busy, so if you see something that you're interested in or that you want to witness, like feel free to ask if it's okay to step away or just step away at the same time. Additionally, you can also just ask questions, take advantage of the resources and the knowledge that you're surrounded by during your externship, and soak everything up, just kind of be a sponge. And that would be my tips.
Great, thank you.
You asked the second question about letters of recommendation. Can you repeat that part?
Yeah, I was just curious to know like what tips you had specifically for how to stand out and make like a good first impression, because 2 weeks is such a short period of time. And if we do want to have a letter of recommendation and have it be like meaningful, like what kind of tips do you have in order to like stand out and be able to get a yes from someone to write you a letter of recommendation?
Yeah, so I think that in general, whenever you're in a working, the first thing I remember I used to tell this to when I worked in specialty hospitals, we had interns. I used to tell them all the time, there's no such thing as an experience in a place of work where you're not being evaluated. It's a mistake to think you're just there doing an externship and you're not being evaluated. You're always being evaluated. And it's also a mistake to think that whatever it is that people think of you is not going to get to whatever employer you're applying to a job with. So it will get there. So you always need to be on your best behavior, if you want to call it that. The best approach, I think, to working anywhere is to figure out the people around you. What are they trying to accomplish? What are their goals? And to figure out a way to help them meet their goals. If you think about it like that, and so, for example, you'll be doing an externship and you will see the nurses there have their goals are to keep up with patient care and to provide great patient care. If you can help them do that, that's great. Meaning you might think the mistake you might make is you're like, oh, I'm a doctor extern, meaning I'm learning how to be a doctor. And so I'm only going to stick to doctory things. But there are people there who are very important to the overall experience. Those nurses, figure out ways to help them accomplish their goals. Then look at the doctor. What is the doctor trying to accomplish? The doctor there is probably hopefully trying to provide customers and patients with an amazing experience. What are they trying to do? They're trying to see people right away. They're trying to keep all of their customers in the know. If you're a great extern, you can probably learn about the cases, talk to the doctor and say, hey, can I fill those customers have been waiting a little bit, can I fill them in maybe on what we're up to, what we're waiting for? Figure out ways to help people accomplish their goals. They will love you for that and they'll write you really good letters of recommendation. Always ask, can you write me a good letter of recommendation? Give people the opportunity to say, you probably don't want to ask me to write you a letter of recommendation. I know that sounds weird, but I've seen people screw up on that. But I think if you're always looking to help people accomplish their goals, they will write you good letters of recommendation.
Awesome. That's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kelsey, go ahead.
Hi, good night. I have 2 questions. Can you hear me, first of all?
I can hear you great, Kelsey. Where are you from?
I'm Jamaican.
And where are you in school?
St. George's University, Grenada.
I miss Grenada. I was at Grenada like in February of 2020 with my wife at, do you know La Luna? Do you know the Hotel La Luna?
Yes, I'm familiar.
It was beautiful. And then like we couldn't go on vacation for 3 years afterwards because like everything shut down for COVID. And so we spent 3 years remembering that as like our last most amazing vacation. So I have like a soft spot for Grenada. It's beautiful. Enjoy your time there.
Thank you. You should definitely come back. I would love to meet you in person, but I have 2 questions. First of all, the first one is, given how widespread veg is, would you be open to collaborating on proposed projects outside of the US, for example, in the Caribbean, to help in communities that are severely underserved with maybe limited pet support and extreme animal suffrage due to any limited resources?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. That sounds like a fantastic cause. We do have limited bandwidth at Veg, in that meaning our first commitment is to our veggies, to our customers. And we do get involved in a lot of ways with causes like that. In the United States, just wherever we have veggies, we have our Veg Cares, which is people can donate money to pay for people's care if they can't afford emergency vet care. We have that. We also donate every year. We have one day where we donate all of our revenue to Veg Cares and also other charities that our veggies choose. They can be anything from Habitats for Humanity to all sorts of causes, and they get to choose those causes, and we donate our money there. We also support our people going out to do things like remote area medicine experiences, where they go to underserved countries and provide veterinary care there. I think it would be great in the long term to be able to provide people from any Caribbean countries that may not have access to vet care in general, emergency vet care, to be able to help them. It is, I will say, a difficult lift. We have so much on our plate right now, but I can definitely see a future where we have veggies kind of everywhere, and we have a lot of veggies who are looking for opportunities like that. We will certainly support them in trips out there to do things like that. We have a lot of people in veg who are like, that's something that they're committed to. They've worked with remote area medicine, and they are actually currently building out, trying to build out programs where they can go and do that through veg, where a bunch of veggies go somewhere and help in underserved areas. So that's in the works. It just may take a little longer than you think, but we would love to do that.
Thank you so much for that answer. I am interested in becoming a veggie. It's also something that I have a keen interest in. So hence my question to see if it's something that veg would be open to, if it was a project that I would like to undertake sometime in the future, of course, on a more long-term basis. But my other question is, what are some opportunities, if any, for international students interested in externing with veg?
That is going to be another answer from someone better than me.
We're going to hand it off to Monica right now, our international campus recruiter. So Monica, go ahead and you can unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Great question. For international students, we love having them in our hospitals. It really depends on the country that you're coming from in terms of citizenship and what visa you require, but it's usually a very straightforward process. Greta or myself are always very happy to help, so you can always send us an email and we can dig a little bit further for you for that information.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Kelsey. Thank you very much.
Great. Let's see. Ethan, go ahead.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Awesome. Hey, thank you guys so much for your time. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, currently going to Ashworth. I had two questions. My first one is, I've worked in EMS for the past 7 years as a medic, and I'm transitioning over to vet med. My wife is a registered technician and actually works for the Charlotte Veg, and I've put in an application. I'm waiting to get on board there. But for somebody that's just going into vet med, what kind of words of wisdoms would you have for them?
So going into vet med, period. I think don't lose sight of the fact that every kid, if you stop them and you ask them when they're kids, like what they want to do, they will tell you they either want to be an astronaut, maybe they want to be a firefighter. A lot of them probably want to be a veterinarian. In school, you can really get caught up in people will come to your school and will tell you all the things you have to worry about being a veterinarian. They'll talk to you about burnout, and they'll talk to you about student loans. And don't lose sight of the fact that you're, in vet school, you're about to become a veterinarian, culmination of so many people's childhood dreams. Veterinary medicine is, in my opinion, the most amazing career. I think animals are such a huge part of human life, and the ability to help people with their pets, that's what veterinary medicine does. I would say companion veterinary medicine, that's what it does. Emergency veterinary medicine, I think, is the best way to practice veterinary medicine, helping people and their pets when they need it most. So my tip to you is, don't lose sight of that. And when I go to vet schools and I talk to students, I put up my grades, I put up my transcripts, and I show them the mix of grades that I got. I got some C's, that happens. I got some B's, I got some A's, and you're so focused on your grades. And I tell people, those are not your transcripts. Your transcripts should be a reflection of how much you do what your veterinarian is supposed to do, which is helping people with their pets. And your best transcripts are the comments that you get from your customers, from your clients, from pet owners after you've helped them. Pay attention to that. It's also if you get your transcripts and you didn't do well in ophthalmology, it doesn't mean you can't become an ophthalmologist. If you didn't do well in surgery, it doesn't mean you can't be a great surgeon. There's really not a ton of correlation between how you do on tests in these subjects or even the rotations in these things and what you're capable of. So be whatever kind of veterinarian you want to be, that you think you'll enjoy doing, not what school tells you you can and can't do. I think those are my 2 big tips for you for being a veterinarian.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. My second question is long term. I know that there have been talks in the field about a veterinary nurse practitioner. If that became a thing, is that something that you think VEG would utilize?
Here's the secret. I always like outing things that I'm not supposed to say to 156 people. VEG already has nurse practitioners. We already employ 1 advanced practice veterinary nurse. And that's an experiment that we're running. She has been working in one of our locations alongside the doctors. We have, in fact, I just got a presentation from them today. And really what they're doing is they are pushing the limits, pushing the envelope on what veterinary nurses can do in terms of what are things that the doctors typically do and nurses don't, that really a nurse can do, and it doesn't require a veterinary degree to do, just advanced veterinary training. So they probably will, at least for the short term, all be veterinary technician specialists, VTSs. And they'll get additional training that allows them to do those things like laceration repairs, endoscopies, ultrasounds, things that to date only the doctors are doing with a little bit of training. Think about it, there's no reason nurses learn how to suture in school. And wound repair is really not something that it requires a veterinary degree to do. And so there's no reason why an advanced practice veterinary nurse couldn't do laceration repairs, unblocking cats, things like that. So we're already experimenting with that. I absolutely 100% think that VEG will have more and more advanced practice veterinary nurses doing more of those things.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, sir.
You're welcome.
Cameron, go ahead.
I think you have to unmute yourself, Cameron. There you go.
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you great.
Perfect. So I'm from Tucson. I go to the University of Arizona. And my first question was kind of going off of what someone else had mentioned earlier, but obviously it's very prevalent that veterinary medicine as a whole is facing a shortage of not just vets, but like techs, assistants, the whole 9 yards. And so obviously VEG is continuing to expand and grow. So you guys may not be feeling that shortage as much as other practices, but I was just like wanting to know how VEG is handling the shortages that they are facing.
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are a couple of factors at play. The first is this, like I use this example. If like imagine coders, programmers, coders in the world, let's say 70% of them disappeared overnight. And we only had 30% left. There are a few companies in the world that really would not be feeling that. And they are probably Apple, Meta, not Facebook, Apple, Meta, maybe Microsoft. These are the companies that every coder wants to work for. And so we have like a similar thing. We don't feel it as bad as a lot of other companies do because we think that we strive to be the employer of choice. In many ways, we're succeeding at that. And so for a lot of people, we're the company that they want to work for. It's part of our vision that if you're interested, VEG is the best place to work if you're interested in a career in emergency medicine. And so we think emergency is very compelling. So if you're interested in a career in emergency medicine, you're going to want to come out and work for the emergency company. We say emergency is our middle name. It's all we do. And so that's one reason why we don't feel it as badly, let's say, as other companies do. That's not to say that it's not an uphill battle and a challenge. It certainly is. On top of that, I'll actually make it harder. Is our goal is not just to hire doctors and nurses. Our goal is to hire the right doctors and nurses. VEG is not for everybody. We have very specific core values, and if your values don't align with VEG's core values, you're probably not going to be a successful veggie. So it's extra hard for us to find the right people. We have a very talented talent team. That's our recruiting team. I don't even know how many people we have on our recruiting team. Maybe somebody can give me a quick number on that. But we easily spend tens of millions of dollars on recruiting all the time. How do we recruit? 50 people. We have 50 people whose sole focus in life is finding us veggies. There you go, Chris. I forgot that you were on the call. Thanks for wooting. You probably should answer this. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about your referral program?
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh man, all right. This picture too. This is fantastic. I don't know if everyone can see this picture, but that makes it all the better. I promise. The more you know, for in the know with the CEO, but just my normal picture that I have on every day. So we actually launched a brand new referral program. Monday. Is today Tuesday? Is when it's been a month or so. Just getting this thing up and running, but basically what Bessler was talking about, we do experience challenges at Veg, and as he mentioned, one of my favorite things that we talk about is just because you're not a great fit for Veg does not mean that you're not a great human being. Just want to be very, very clear about that. But again, it takes a very certain type of person to want to come into an ER and work 24/7. And so we're really looking for amazing doctors that connect with our mission and our values, and also are passionate about ER. And we think that our current veggies are a fantastic network to, and they know the individuals who could make future great veggies. And so we started a brand new referral program. It launched on yesterday, called The Grove. And it's really kind of founded in just rebuilding trust with the front lines, really kind of connecting our headquarters with our hospitals, and ultimately kind of rebuilding that trust and transparency as we kind of look to all of you to help us grow the Veggielution and kind of staff our hospitals. And ultimately, like, who wouldn't want to work with their best friends every day, whether they're doctors, nurses, receptionists, hospital assistants, nursing managers, all of those folks. So really kind of looking to expand our networks and get all of you working with your best friends and kind of bringing that all back home in a way that kind of pushes our mission forward. So hopefully that's what you're looking for, Bessler, but happy to answer any specific questions as well.
Yeah, I'll piggyback onto that, and I'll say that our business focus at Veg this year is really getting more customers and veggies in the door and giving them an amazing experience. And that's a flywheel. If you know what a flywheel is, it's kind of just moves faster and faster the more you do it. Because the better the experience that those people that we got in the door have, they will tell more people, and then more people will come in the door. And it applies both to customers and it applies to veggies as well. If we can bring in people and have them have an amazing experience, they will tell their friends. And that's what Chris's referral program is doing, turning every veggie into a referrer, into a recruiter. We'll get more veggies in the door. One interesting thing that I'll add, nobody's asked it yet, but we have really nothing keeping people at Veg. We don't have anything. You don't have to stay at Veg, and there's nothing keeping you here. We did away with non-competes. And the reason we did away with non-competes is not just because we think they suck, although we think non-competes suck. We think by not having non-competes, we force ourselves to provide our veggies with the best experience so that they will stay and recruit others. If you're going to get yourself into a non-compete, you may not want to take the job to begin with. But if you know that there's no non-compete, then you're not afraid to jump in and give it a try. If you're in a job that doesn't have a non-compete keeping you there and you're staying, it's because it's an amazing experience. And so we use that flywheel. Having an amazing experience makes you a referrer. You bring your friends in, they have an amazing experience too, and the flywheel goes faster and faster. Yeah, Svata, you got it right.
Great. So we probably have time for one, maybe two more questions. So Alyssa, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, my name's Alyssa and I go to the Ontario Veterinary College here in Canada. I'm not sure if this question was kind of answered already, but I briefly took a look at the externship application on the Veg website. And one of the questions asked if you are legally authorized to work in the US. So my question is if Canadian students are able to participate in externships, or is that kind of limited to US citizens?
Monica, we're going to ask you to unmute again.
Hi, Alyssa, you're more than welcome to participate in an externship. We've actually had a bunch of students from OVC come down and visit Veg hospitals and spend a couple of weeks with us. So for that question, you can answer, yes, you are legally able to work in the US. And then there's no visa required because you're free to come in as a Canadian to the US.
Okay, perfect. That's great. And then I did kind of just have another question that I submitted when I registered for this event. And just for Dr. Bessler, what's the worst part of emergency medicine for you, in your opinion, I mean?
Yeah, I'll answer that question. It's going to sound weird coming from my mouth, but a mentor of mine told me a long time ago, customers are the best and worst part of the job. She said clients are the best and worst part of the job. When you have a great client, there's nothing better. When you have a difficult client, there's nothing worse. And what I mean by that is you are so emotionally invested in the work that you do as a veterinarian, period, but especially as an emergency vet. Your goal is to help people and their pets. And if your aim is to help people and they're telling you, you didn't help me, you unhelped me, that can be crushing. And that's the worst part, but in an interesting way, it's the worst, it's the most challenging. And it's almost like, what is the worst part of, climbing to the top of Mount Everest? The worst part of, climbing Mount Everest is climbing Mount Everest. It is really, really hard to do. And people break bones and fail, and some people die. And it's that challenge that is both the best and worst part of climbing Mount Everest. And I think for me, people always ask me like the question that you asked, like, do you miss, I don't practice veterinary medicine that much anymore. And people ask me if I miss it. And I tell them, I miss the great parts. I miss when the thank yous, when people give me a hug and say like, you saved my dog's life. You were amazing. I miss that. The really painful parts are hard to miss. People, yelling at you, not because you did a bad job, they're yelling at you because they're in a really bad place. Those things are really, really tough. And they are inherent to emergency. Those things will happen to you. We try to make them happen as unoften as possible, as rarely as possible by setting you up to provide a great experience. That's the worst part for me. That the worst part for me is upset customers, but it's also a great challenge. And you can turn them around and make them happy. And that's a great victory.
Thank you. I really appreciate that answer.
You're welcome.
What do you think? One more?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, final one. Isabel, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Hi, Dr. Bessler. So I have previously worked for emergency hospitals that will not divert cases, even when the team may be feeling like overwhelmed or the patient care may be suffering as a result. So I'm curious the approach that VEG has when it comes to high caseloads or caseloads that may be beyond what the staff can manage.
That's great, Isabel. It's actually interesting to me that you worked at a place that's not a VEG, it sounds like, where they refuse to divert cases. VEG really tries to, can't say with 100% success, but we really try to not divert cases. And let me tell you why. In the middle of COVID, I was doing a lot of talking to people on the phone, dealing with sort of crisis management. Let's say there are 5 providers of emergency care in an area, and they would, let's say hospital number 1 would say, we're not seeing any more emergency cases because we're overwhelmed. Like you were saying, patient care is suffering. We're not able to see people quickly. So they would divert to the other emergency place. And then that place would then close and they would divert. And everybody would end up diverting to VEG. And VEG was still open. And we wanted to say like, oh my God, we're overwhelmed and we can't see any more cases and patient care is suffering. We want to close also. But of course, at that point, people have nowhere else to go. The problem was not that these emergency places were not, some of them were understaffed, meaning their employees, let's say, were all working at VEG, whatever it is. Some of them were understaffed, and so they couldn't see, they were relatively unable to see the caseload. That's their fault. They were just not prepared. They were understaffed, they couldn't do it. But a lot of places were adequately staffed, and they were, because patient care was starting to fall, they just diverted, and they ended up at us. The culprit there was COVID and the caseload, not the people. And so when you're an emergency provider, you're managing crisis. And sometimes the world is in crisis and there are just too damn many patients who need emergency help. In that case, you still can't close. You work as hard as you can. You explain to people as much as you can. If there is a place that is open and ready to see that the next case that's there and you can't, you should send that case there for sure. But if you're the last place open and there's a patient outside who needs emergency care, you do the best that you can. There's another place that happens. It happens in battlefields. In battlefields, there are too many people sick and wounded to be cared for by the number of people that are there. They do something called triage. Triage was invented to sort cases into the ones that need you the most first. That's what we resorted to. It's a terrible situation. I hope we never get there again. I hope the crazy demand that happened during COVID and the lack of ability to see them, it never happens again. But if you're the last person standing, the last ER open, you can't just close your doors. You do the best you can with what you have to try to help as many people as you can. And that's the reality. When you're a superhero, it's not easy. And you can't just say like, I'm hanging up my cape for the night because it's too hard.
Thank you so much. That's a really interesting perspective. And I think it's definitely given me a little bit more, I guess, hope in regards to like why in ER we are accepting cases continuously. Because sometimes, it can be really disheartening, but that's really, I guess it opens my eyes. It's a little more brighter perspective and I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Isabel, I just want to add one more thing. I know we're probably running out of time, but I just think it's important to say, when in like 2020 and 2021, when every ER was just overwhelmed with people and, we had even Veg had curbside service. It was just really difficult to treat the number of emergencies that we had to treat. We did our duty, which means we packed our hospitals with people that were willing to provide emergency care. And I said willing. In order to do that, we just had to take whoever there was. We normally we try to be very selective. We try to provide training. We ended up packing our hospitals with people that were willing, but maybe not necessarily able to provide the emergency care that we wanted to. That's also a compromise, but during a time of crisis, you compromise to do the best that you can for the most people. Now, after COVID, we're feeling the pain with that. We have a lot of veggies that joined Veg and didn't get adequate training. Now we built up our training so that when people come in, we're able to teach them how to be great ER doctors and be great Veg ER doctors so they can provide a better experience when we're not super overwhelmed. But compromise is the name of the game in a crisis, and we hate to do it. And I felt so bad for all of our veggies who are struggling to do the best job that they could, but it allowed them to be superheroes, and they were, and I'm super proud of them.
That's awesome. Thank you again. I really appreciate your answer.
It's a great question, Isabella. That's the last time I'm going to say that.
Well, thank you everybody for coming. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. Unfortunately, it is over for tonight. That was the last question, but the great news is we will be back. We'll be back this summer. David and I were just talking about some fun ideas that we have. And I will also put in the chat David's Instagram handle. If everybody wants to follow it, he's doing a fun little competition. And so is it just David Bessler?
David Bessler, VMD.
David.
For all you pennies out there.
VMD. Got it. All right. So it's in the chat. If everybody just wants to go over to his Instagram page, follow him. And like I said, we're going to be back this summer for a really, really special edition of In the Know with the CEO. So be on the lookout, follow your campus ambassadors on Instagram, follow David on Instagram, and we'll be posting more about that soon. But thank you everybody so much for coming. It's great content. I got to say 10 out of 10. Hopefully we'll see you all very soon on campus.
Thank you, everybody.
Share.
I feel like I was the only one not in med school.